Welcome to tonight's District 5 United meeting. District 5 United strives to improve the quality of life in East San Jose and in San Jose as necessary. Next up, we have the Emerging Mobility Action Plan presentation with Q&A by Laura Stuchinsky with the City of San Jose. Laura, whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, wrong thing here. Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to address you about the Emerging Mobility Action Plan. I'm Laura Stuchinsky with the Department of Transportation and the lead of the Emerging Mobility Program in the city. And to start off, I imagine that you are wondering what the heck is emerging mobility. So let me explain. So emerging mobility is a term that's used to describe a lot of services that you're quite familiar with, I'm sure, such as ride hailing, on-demand shuttles, car sharing services, shared bikes and scooters. It also includes services, new services and technologies that are on the horizon, such as aerial and ground-based delivery drones and those transporting humans, automated car sharing, and automated shuttles. We want to position the city to be able to manage these typically privately owned and operated services to serve the public good, including making sure that all people benefit from them. To do that, we centered racial equity in this Emerging Mobility Action Plan. There's a lot of ways to do that. One of the steps we took was to collaborate with the city's communities, particularly in its most marginalized communities, in every phase of this planning process. We did that in part by creating a racial equity task force made up of community leaders, I should say, and organizations. They educated us, they challenged us, and invited us into conversations with their communities. We had several rounds of community engagement in this process, and we tried a variety of strategies to be able to reach the communities, given the fact that it was so COVID, and also because we wanted to reach people who are from communities who typically have not been represented in city decision-making process. So we were trying new ways to try to reach more people. There's a lot of text in this slide. I don't expect you to read it all, but I just wanted to give you a sense of the diversity and the number of things we tried in order to reach the community. And I can come back to this slide if you want more detail later. The Equity Task Force came prepared to advocate for their communities within the constraints of the project. They didn't choose the focus of emerging mobility. That was imposed by the city. And they made it clear to us that there were other issues that were far more urgent for their communities, and issues like affordable housing and displacement, access to healthcare, environmental justice, and public safety, among others. So the task force members thought that transportation was important, particularly public transit. Problem was, they said it simply didn't work well for a lot of people. Buses don't go where they need to go, or when they need to get there. They run too infrequently, they cost too much, or it takes a long time to get where you're trying to go. At the same time, the task force didn't see much value in emerging mobility, specifically electric scooters and bike share and car share, which are options that are available in the city. They said the services were too expensive. They didn't meet their needs, such as transporting groceries or children. They may not have a smartphone or a credit card or a driver's license, all of which are required to use these services. Info on them is typically available in English, sometimes Vietnamese and Spanish, but many more languages are spoken in San Jose. The services may not be available in their neighborhood. They don't know how to use it, or they felt unsafe using these services. These views were echoed by a lot of people in the community when we did our community engagement. As a result, the top recommendations that they came up through this planning process focused on means to remove barriers to access and to ensure that services meet community needs. These are the top five recommendations as ranked by the task force and the public. The first is creating tailored programs that meet the needs of groups such as seniors and working families with kids. They make it easy and affordable to pay, that the pay options are available at kiosks or businesses that are close at hand. They collaborate with the community and CBOs to design, execute, and evaluate the programs, and to establish a minimum service level by geography for all services. To pay community members to promote programs in their communities, to give CBOs vouchers to share with residents, and to educate people on how to safely use these services. And lastly, workforce training, establishing emerging mobility training programs and local hire requirements, particularly for jobs that are good paying and have a future. if we could accommodate, if we could overcome all the barriers that were previously described, residents did express interest in having mobility options that could meet a broader variety of needs. For example, on-demand shuttles and adult tricycles, electric vehicles, electric cargo bikes, community designed and operated ride sharing services. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. I'd love to hear if you have any questions about the plan, or if there are services that you'd like to see in your community that aren't available now.
All right, attendees, if you have questions, please do pose them using the Q&A feature or chat. I did have a question on the top 5 recommendations. I think the first one was related to, maybe if you could share that again.
Yes, I'm about to do that.
I think that's the gist of where this is headed. And I wondered, I think it said that for seniors and families with children to provide, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I wondered on that first bullet, whether youth should be included. I would think that they should. I know that seniors have needs, and by youth, I should say young adults, right? There are tailored services, create programs tailored to seniors and working families with kids. I suggest considering adding young adults.
Yeah.
That some young adults are financially stable and don't need tailored services, but I think that many may not be. And so I would just suggest that. And let's see, do we have any questions? I don't see other questions. I had one question about the ride share. If you go one slide forward. Now, I know that in San Benito County, the county offers on-demand community shuttles that operate like Lyft and Uber, where if I request it, it'll pick me up on the way to drop somebody else off or on the way to pick somebody else up. And if that's similar, is that something that's being suggested as a public service, or that ideally a private company would want to do? But it can't be private, I would think, because that's already Uber and Lyft, right? That already.
Yeah. There are different companies that offer, for example, there's an on-demand community shuttle that's available in Cupertino, run by a company named V. That's also subsidized by the city, and they're using grants to subsidize the cost as well. So thus far, I haven't seen any other nonprofits or community groups run an on-demand shuttle. Green Lighteros is probably the closest. They created in the city of Heron a connection between the small city of Heron and a larger city that's nearby there, which has like a major hospital that otherwise the community residents would have to spend 2 hours on a bus to get to. So now they have this service, which is kind of like an Uber service, but people are volunteering to drive others to their appointments so they can get back and forth between their community and this larger community that has a lot more services that they need, and not need to take hours of their day to get one way to their need, to these essential services that they need. Right, we want to work on this with the community, which is why one of the reasons why I posed the question: if people are interested in seeing something like this, any of these ideas, or some other thing that's not even available right now, we want to know what the communities want so we can work with the communities to design the program and then go after grant funding.
Is there a form or survey online, for example, where people could provide that input, or is the best way to email you?
Best way is to email me.
Laura, I appreciate your presentation as well.